You know how both you and I gravitate to great people who have dogs. Well, that's why we're jumping on Zoom now to talk to Paul Drayton about not only his dogs, but his whole farm. I'm Anna Webb. Welcome to A Dog's Life. Hey, welcome, Paul
Thanks,
Drayton,
Anna.
Dog's Life. Hey, at last. I've been
I
so
know
looking forward to this for months and months, and it's hard to pin you down because you're a very busy person.
it's been a long time coming, and when we see each other at the charity events, you'll say, "Please come on the podcast. Please come on the podcast." But I've been had a lot going on, and I haven't really felt confident enough to do anything like this. So I'm getting my confidence back now. So here we are, and I'm glad you've invited me on, and let's get cracking. Let's talk about dogs, dogs, dogs.
Dogs, dogs, dogs. So, Paul, when did dogs first what's your earliest memory, I guess, of a dog?
Well, I was brought up in Sunderland, and when I was a kid, my mum and dad used to go out to work, and I always wanted a dog, but they said it wasn't fair to leave it in the house on its own. So there was a lovely old lady who lived around the corner who had a Westie called Jamie, and I kind of adopted him, and so he was my adopted dog, little Jamie the Westie. And so yeah, I used to take him for a walk every day, and friends of mine used to walk their dogs as well, so I didn't feel left out. So it was really nice. And I've always loved dogs. I've always been an animal person. Um, I was brought up kind of on the outskirts of Sunderland, and as I got a little bit older, I got into horses, and I just love animals basically.
Why
And
do you think animals enrich our lives so much, Paul? Do you think? I mean, can you define it? I always think they make us human.
well, they just they're just there for you all the time. They just give you love. They just want to be with you. They don't answer you back. They not that I'm argumentative anyway, but they're just a companion, aren't they? You can talk to them. They give you some kind of self-worth, some um yeah, they just give you self-worth basically and make you feel loved. And yeah, I couldn't see myself without a dog now. Um, I got my first own dog about 15 years ago, because I don't know whether you saw on social media. It was 15 years ago. No, sorry, it was 2 years ago since I had to put Bev to sleep because of liver failure.
I did see
Um,
that post. I saw that post, and
yeah,
yeah, posts like that do always bring a tear to my eye when I know the human, as well, because I know that devastating pain.
and
And this is the price, isn't it? I think
yeah,
for
they
loving a
never
dog.
they never live as long as you want them to, do they? And Bev, we had her for 15, no, not 15 years. Well, it would have been 15 years, but she died when we had her put to sleep when she was just over 11. But you just want them to go on forever, don't you? And they don't, unfortunately. So we have to put up with the pain of having to let them go. And when you do make the decision to let them go, it's kind of I did text the breeder that I got her from, and she said that's the last act of kindness that you can do, because towards the end, bless her, she wasn't eating. I know it sounds daft, but I was literally trying to make her eat by blending all of this good nutritional stuff. I was googling it. I was doing whatever I could to try and get it into a system, and I was kind of like piping it into her using a soft icing bag, and it's just heartbreaking because I know a lot of people, when they do have dogs, they want to keep them going, but sometimes it's just fair that if they've had a great life and they're not feeling good, and if they're in pain at all, just to let them go and you deal with that pain. And yeah, but like I'm lucky because I've got three other dogs that keep me company, and I've got another Irish setter, because we're going to talk about Irish setters, who's here, and yeah, she's doing all right actually. She comes up to 13 soon, so that's quite a good age for a big dog. But yes,
And
we've had some. Well, yeah, she's got arthritis as well, and especially with this hot weather, she's upstairs and she's in the bedroom and she's been a bit restless and she's panting. So I'm a little bit sleep deprived at the minute.
Oh no, Paul. Yeah, no. I mean, the heat. I always think when the heat sort of comes, and it's been quite a sudden arrival, hasn't it, the last couple of days? Um,
Definitely.
it shocks us as humans.
Yeah,
So you can only imagine what it is for the dog. It's like
I
crumbs.
know.
Yeah, I remember this sunny weather. And they get excited about it because they do love it. But
Exactly.
we mustn't forget how dangerous overheating and so easy for dogs to overheat, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, I know. I mean, like I said, she's an Irish setter, and because she's old, I took her to the groomer last week, and I had all her coat shaved off, so she actually looks like a ginger lab at the minute. But I don't show her. I don't care what she looks like as long as she's comfortable. And yeah, that's the main thing, isn't it? We do what we can to keep them comfortable. But even like when the weather is like this, all they want to do during the day is sleep. And then on a night time, when you're knackered or you're exhausted, they're like, right, come on, I need to go out now. It's cooler. Take me for a walk. But I normally take them for a walk more or less in the morning before the sun gets really hot, especially in the hot weather. And yeah, we'll just do what we can to make them more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of, freezing interactive toys, with
Yeah.
banana in, and I kind of think of it as a banana sorbet for them, and
Mm.
frozen broth cubes,
Yeah.
on a plate for them to lick on and cool down. I mean,
Yeah.
broth actually is such a good remedy, for
Really?
yeah, no, it so is
Mm.
because it's isotonic. So
Right.
not many people know, and it basically refreshes all of the organs so much more
Ah,
effectively than just water. So it
right.
does work in a way like an isotonic drink. It's packed with electrolytes and
Oh,
obviously
wow.
collagen and other nutrition as well. So that's what I do. I freeze my broth into ice cube trays and then pop them out, into their meals,
Oh, wow.
and it makes it last longer that way as well. Otherwise, you're kind of
Yeah,
pouring the broth on, and it doesn't half disappear quick.
I
Yeah,
bet.
but it really, 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 rehydrates
Mm.
dogs much, much more effectively than just water alone. Top tip.
Even human like that because I've got bone broth, I've got chicken broth in the cupboard as well, so I could just pop that into some ice cube trays and give them that. Would you just give them it as like a treat as well, or would you put it into their water? I mean, do you put water into the ice into their water bowls as well? I do, and especially when it's really hot, I put ice cubes into the water. But if you just gave them a because my little tuppence, who's the little mongrel from South Korea, she's very fussy, so she'll probably sniff at it. And because it doesn't smell of anything particular, she'll probably just lick it and then leave it to melt on the floor, probably. And then I'll end up breaking my neck if I slip on it. But yeah, I'm definitely I'm going to try that bone broth thing. And there's
Just make
ice.
sure, yeah, just make sure it's not got too much garlic or onions if it's a human
Okay,
one.
right.
I mean, there's lots out there that could be
Mm,
delivered. I don't know if any of the main sort of retailers have
yeah.
it.
Mm. I
Yeah,
look online.
look online, or you could quickly make one. Just roast the chicken, organic
Yeah,
preferably. Then take all the chicken meat off, stick all the
yeah,
bones into a slow cooker, put
yeah.
filtered water, cold filtered water over all the bones. Then let it just do its stuff on the lowest possible heat for a
Right.
minimum of 12 hours. Bob's your uncle, you've got your own broth. Then you sieve it so there's none of the bones get mixed up in it, and
No.
you're off. You're a broth man.
Well,
It's as
thanks for
simple
that.
as that. But
I'll give it a go.
there's
Mind.
so many brands making it now because it is a bit of a faff. But yeah, so Irish setters. Tell us about your love of Irish setters.
Well, basically, when I was a kid growing up, my grandma Winnie, she had an Alsatian and Prince, and he was absolutely gorgeous. And then he passed, unfortunately, and then her husband passed, my granddad, and so she wanted a dog to keep her company while she was on her own, and she ended up getting an Irish setter called Rusty, and Rusty was well, absolutely soft as clarts, absolutely bonkers, and so loving. And I just loved her. She'd go and roll in cow pats. She'd just, yeah, she was just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And they're such beautiful dogs. And yeah, they got a bit of a bad reputation, I think, in the 70s or 80s because I like a lot of dogs or bigger dogs, especially if they're quite high energy, unless they get really good exercise during the day, they'll tell you about it. And Bev and Joyce were quite vocal, especially Bev. If she was hungry, if she wanted to go out, if you were eating something that she wanted a bite of, she'd really, bark at you. And so, but my two Irish setters, we always made sure that they got plenty of exercise. And in the evening, they would just sit by your side or on the floor at your feet, and they were absolutely amazing. So when I was with my ex-partner, we decided that we were going to get a dog, and I suggested to him, how about an Irish Setter? And he turned around and said, "Oh my God, I love those dogs." So anyway, I didn't say anything more about it, and looked up a good breeder that bred them, and she was in Nottingham, and she was a pedigree winner, and she used to show a dog, so. Yeah, I decided to. I didn't want the dog to show at all. I just wanted them as a pet. I don't buy or I don't buy dogs at all now. I always rescue my dogs, which I'm sure you do, and a lot of people do. But I don't go for looks in dogs, even though I've just said that they're beautiful dogs. I like the character, I like their personalities, and if they're good looking or if they're beautiful, then you always think your own dogs are beautiful anyway, don't you? So that's where my love of Irish Setters what came from. And to be honest with you, I've had them now for, well, 13, 14 years. And I don't think I would get another Irish setter now, unless one came up to be rescued and it was a little bit older, because they're hard work. Puppies are hard work. So I don't think I would get another Irish setter now. But I love
I
it.
love Irish. I love them. I love that chestnut coat. And when they're
Absolutely.
running, but they are gun dogs, and they
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
And that's where, I mean, to be honest, Paul, you've got the perfect home environment for an Irish setter because of your farm.
Well, yeah, I mean, we lived in the country, and there's lots of, obviously the farm was great to have them and walk around, but there's only so much land. So what we'll do is get in the car and take them to Petworth Park. There's woods called Men's Woods, Leith Hill, Box Hill, and so we take them out in the car and give them a good run. And honestly, when they're out, and you see them work, and it's so weird because Irish setters were bred to set the birds off. So they would be taken out working, and they'd go through woods, and it's honestly, their noses are absolutely incredible. They can be running and running, and all of a sudden you'll see a pheasant just shoot up from the ground, and the dogs used to go absolutely bonkers, which also helped with their exercise as well, because if you take them, we lived part of the time in London, and so when you're walking around Hyde Park, yes, they can be off the lead and stuff, but they don't get that same kind of exercise as they do in the country. Yes, but the
Mm.
farm was great for them, because mind we didn't get many pheasants on the farm, but there was plenty of other things for them to sniff. I had some peacocks which I bought on a whim, which I
Oh,
used to do quite a lot, and they I made a huge aviary out of scaffolding poles and netting. And my intention was for them to be roaming free around the farm. But that didn't happen, unfortunately, because the woman who used to live on the farm in the house, who rented it from me, she had an Irish setter. And even though I asked her to keep him in or keep him within the garden, she let him out. And these um, peacocks just flew straight up into the trees, and then they were in the next door neighbour's garden, and they were so much trouble and so noisy. So they lasted for a short while. But yeah, the farm was great for them to just, yeah, it was just handy having it on your door.
oh no, amazing. But you've still got the farm and lots of sheep, I
Yes.
think.
Yes, yes. About had the farm for probably about 8 years, and it was perfect because, like I said, I love animals and I used to ride. So I got a horse and a rescue horses, and we had some alpacas, sheep. We still got the sheep, cows, chickens, goats, and loads and loads and loads of fleas. And but but when I got divorced 2 years ago, I because I'd been through so much um, mentally, and I just wanted to I had to just simplify my life. So I had to make sure that the alpacas went to a good home, that the neighbours took the alpacas, and the chickens went to a friend of mine who used to own the farm that we bought. I've still got two goats as well. The sheep are just there; they just keep the grass down. The horses, I got two. Well, the neighbour's got one of the horse, and I sold Jack to a really nice lady who's looking after him, but he's getting on. So yeah, I had to simplify the farm, and so there's just the sheep there now, and a couple of cheeky little pygmy goats
Oh
who
gosh, pygmy
uh,
goats, how amazing. I mean, are they really cheeky? Like, how naughty
they
are they?
they are so naughty and so greedy. I've got to be like with the dogs, like any animals, you've got to be really careful about how much you feed them, because you're not loving a dog by giving it too much food. Uh, when you see some people and they've got dogs and they're like waddling along, and you think, well, that's not very healthy for the dog, unfortunately. And we control what they eat, so yeah, I'm very strict with about what I eat. But these goats, they'll get into everything and anything. In fact, a friend of mine who's using my fields for her horses at the minute, she texted me this morning and saying one of the goats has knocked the feed bin off. It's empty, but there's a rat in there now.
Oh
So
no.
I've got to go and deal with this rat.
Oh no, gosh. I mean, that's the thing, is it? With about the
But
country, these things
mm,
are kind of,
it's
there, whereas in
it's
London, you're never, what's the expression? You're never more than 3 feet away
2 feet
from a
away from
from
a
a
rat.
rat. At least they're sort of mostly underground. But so this is
Yeah.
where you need a terrier, though, isn't it, Paul? You need a
Well,
terrier.
yeah, I know. Well, my partner, he's got a lurcher kind of. He's a rescue dog from the RSPCA, and he takes him to work, and he will rat, but I'm not very good at seeing things like that killed. I know they're vermin, and you have to control them because they can spread diseases and stuff like that. So I do have a pest control man, but yeah, I don't really know what to do with this rat. I probably just let him off. I remember once out in the feed bin, a squirrel had got inside, and I thought, you little bugger. So it was running around, and I picked it up by the tail, and it just grabbed my finger and bit
Oh,
right through the end of the finger. Really, I had to go for a tetanus. It really bloody hurt. I tell you.
bet it did.
But
No,
that's
I bet. Oh God, no, no, that's so funny. No, squirrels. I think they're related to rats as well.
yeah,
Really,
they are. Yeah,
it's
they
just that
are.
they look
Yeah.
sweeter, Because I always think it's a rat's tail. It's just like that
Well,
naked tail that you just think, oh.
exactly. I can sit in the garden and I can see the squirrels running around, and it's lovely to see them. I don't encourage them by putting food out there, because I think there's enough for them to forage on. But it's really nice to see them. But they are basically vermin as well, and they eat through your wires in the house and stuff like that. And yeah, they're not
Yeah.
cute at all. They look cute, but they're not cute at all.
No, 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 that is so true. But I can't wait to come and visit, and meet your
Oh,
goats.
please, yes.
Oh, because I just think goats are just they're like the bull terrier of the livestock world, aren't they?
Honestly, these two
Stubborn,
little goats, they
cocky,
yeah,
mischievous.
they'll come up to you and they'll jump up at you like a dog, and then he'll headbutt you, and yeah, they're just fun. They're fun. They need knocking out and all the rest of it. And one was lame the other week, so I had to get the vet out. And yeah, it's just you just feel like you're forking out all the time. Unfortunately, I had an old sheep that was sitting on his own the other day in the field, and there didn't seem to be much. He didn't seem to have anything showing visibly wrong with him, and then a few days later, he was just lying there. Unfortunately, in the field, he died. But I think that must have been old age, because I think he was about 12 or 13. And so
Oh,
I had to call Harry Hawkins to come, and well, I had to lift him onto the back of the little truck that I've got, and then see him being taken away, which is when you have a farm, death is part of it, unfortunately. And I think growing up in the country, and my family used to live on farms and were farmers, you kind of get hardened to it in a way,
Yes.
especially I know we eat animals and sheep and stuff like that. I would never eat my own sheep. I would never eat my own cows. I never eat my own. I used to eat the eggs from the chickens, but I would never kill a chicken to eat of my own kind of thing. But it's just death is part of the farm life, I'm afraid, and I think where it comes to those kind of animals, you do become hardened to it. But where your dogs are concerned, they are literally your sons and daughters, and they are your family, aren't they?
They really are. And I think, the grief of losing,
Mm,
a dog is and there's so many first time dog owners out there at the moment. And that
yeah,
I don't think they have any idea really of what's going to come to hit them.
no,
And no matter how much you prepare and
yeah,
that dogs, if you get them to 15, you've done
yeah.
really, really well.
Well, yeah.
Anything over 10, really, because
Listen,
anything can happen.
my uncle Les, he had a Labrador. He used to take it out working, and it lived outside in the kennel. He used to feed it everything and anything. It was in really good shape. And Sandy, he lived till 19-year-old.
Did he? Gosh.
Yes, yeah,
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's
mm,
interesting at the moment because you say he lived outside. Because
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on, right? So segueing slightly to the microbiome, right, at the moment
right,
in dogs, and I'm kind of so lucky to be in touch with kind of the main researcher or someone who's done a huge amount of research on all sorts of different animals'
yeah,
microbiomes. And what she's revealed, it's not good news. Dogs are the sickest animal in this country.
huh,
Cats are healthier. Horses are healthier still, and
right,
their microbiomes recover really quickly after a course of
mm.
medication. But dogs' microbiomes are actually that puppies are born with microbiomes that are kind of are lacking in
So
diversity. And I'm wondering whether, because cats, I'm asking her to do a study on whether indoor cats and outdoor cats actually have very different biomes, because I
yeah,
think it's got something
probably,
to do with living inside too much. Um,
mm.
Because
And
yeah,
all of this kind of processed food that's out there. I mean, on my Instagram feed, if I buy something online, I feed my dogs raw,
yeah.
and I've
So do
just
I, by the
found,
way. So
yeah,
do I. Yeah.
well, on the morning they get Tibble and tin sardines, and they've always had that. And then in the evening they get a raw diet. But I wonder, well, because dogs, going back years and years and years and years, they used to just forage and they used to eat what was ever out there, didn't they? And I think there's so many like expensive dog foods out there and over processed stuff. It must affect their stomachs. Even humans. I mean, I tried to look after myself. I'm not 100% sure what a microbiome is. I would just imagine it's like gut health, is it?
Well, it is. It's like this thin layer that is full of trillions of bacteria, lots of different types of
Wow.
bacteria that kind of
Mm,
live in this kind of community because these
right.
bacteria are quite social. So they like to
Yeah.
interact with each other and kind of bounce
Wow.
off each other. But if loads of them are missing, certain strains of
Mm,
these bacteria aren't there, or there's
right.
more of some of the bad guy bacteria, because they're not all bad, you see, some are real
No.
good guys, but you need some of the bad boys in there to kind of
Mm,
keep everything in balance, right?
right.
And what's happening is, I mean, I'm going to be doing a podcast about Mr. Binks's microbiome, my little
Oh
Twitter
yeah.
sphere, because yeah, he's had his analysed, and bearing in mind he's been eating raw ever since I got him 10 years ago. He's now 12, and he's
Right.
had very little medication in that time, if any. He's only had two dentals.
Wow.
Um, yeah, no, he's actually remarkably
That's
robust, but
yeah.
his microbiome is too full of too many bad boys at the moment. So
Right.
we're working really hard. But yeah, I know. And
So what
that's
would you do? Because I would normally go and get a colonic to clear all my.
well,
But
interesting you
when.
should say that. No, it's interesting. Well, what they're all working on at the minute, it's all really quite
Mm,
radical and really new. They're looking to have, you know how you have blood donor banks? They're looking to
yes.
have fecal donor banks so that you can actually add it's gross, isn't it? But actually, poo from a healthy dog in capsules, it's all being looked at to be freeze dried. So it's not like you're going to get bags of dog poo sent in the post, but so properly done. So you're actually enhancing your dog's biome with poo,
Well,
right?
I'm glad you haven't got the camera on because if you could see the facial expression that I'm pulling,
But
but you
this
know,
is
if it works and it's good for your dog and it puts the healthy bacteria in there and it keeps them living longer, then we do whatever we can for our dogs, don't we? Because there's so many different supplements out there for joint, for health, for arthritis, and it's just a minefield, isn't it? But
it
I
is.
think something as simple as a microbiome, if it's kind of going to help, put the healthy bacteria in there, then I'm up for it. I'll give it a go, and
Oh,
if I can
brilliant,
get
Paul.
another,
Well, I'll keep you. I mean, you could have all your
yeah,
biomes
please,
tested, actually. I'll introduce you to this amazing researcher called
please,
Carol Hughes. Yeah, yeah. So because you've got three other dogs, right, at the moment. So you've
yes,
you've still got you've got Joyce, is that right? The Irish
yes,
setter, who's getting on a bit now.
yes,
But
tuppence,
who else? Tuppence. Tell us about
tuppence,
Tuppence.
tuppence. She well, obviously, we do work with All Dogs Matter, and they sent me an email one day saying that they were flying some dogs over. They were closing the meat farm down in South Korea, and they sent me an email over, and and I said to my ex, "Oh, let's rescue a dog this time." And so there was one little terrier on there who kind of just stood out for me, and yeah, she was flown over. I don't know whether you knew this, but Simon Cowell actually pays for the flights for them to come over.
I didn't know
And
that. That's very generous of him,
yeah,
isn't it?
mm,
Yeah. Mm.
he doesn't say it, he doesn't, but he does. Because he's a dog lover as well. And so these dogs came over, and I went and met Tuppence at the air. Well, she wasn't called Tuppence at the time, but I went and met her at the airport, and she was a scraggly little thing. She was kind of slavering at the mouth because she'd been on a flight, and poor bless her, she came out of the carrier straight into my arms, and she's been my little girl for we've had her I've had her for about 8.5 years now. So, but she's gorgeous. And then there's Randy, who I rescued a year and a half ago from another dog charity that I work with, and they've nearly broke me because I'm always donating them because they're putting they do work in China. They're called Great Bulls of China, and they've got a guy called Mr. G out there who'll stop the trucks going to the meat farms, and he'll buy the dogs off them, and he'll bring them back to his pound and where he keeps them all. And they do fundraisers, some PayPal, and and there you go. And little Randy, he's an absolutely fantastic dog. He's got the best character. I had his DNA done because I was just bemused about what kind of breed he was, and it was really interesting to find out what breed he was. He was like 30% Chihuahua, but he looks nothing like a Chihuahua because he's got these long gangly legs, and he's a bit of toy poodle and Italiano Sugugu, which I've never heard of,
Oh,
but he is the most loving, fun, cheekiest yap. He doesn't yap a lot, but if anybody walks along the lane, he's like, "Get off my lane. This is my lane." And,
yes. Do you know what? I mean,
he's so
Mr. Binks,
funny.
who I think you've met, he's my first
Yes,
ever small dog.
right.
And gosh, the character, I've always said this, they
Mm.
might be tiny, but they're mighty, and
Oh,
their
good, yeah.
their personalities are just so
Mm.
funny.
Absolutely.
I love them because Binks is like a bellboy, he will
Yeah,
bark and then I know the postman's going to arrive any minute,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
like a
An
signal
alarm
dog.
system.
An alarm, that is exactly what he is,
Yes.
actually.
Mm.
Far more reliable than a smartphone. So yeah, no, exactly. And then one other, you've got another. So you've got Randy, Tuppence, Joyce.
Joyce, and my partner's got the Lurcher Greyhound, who's lying right next to me now, and he's a gorgeous dog. He's just so loving, and yeah, I think he's about 10 or 11 now. But and him and Randy, they love to play. Because the thing is, I'll just go on to going back to Randy. He's so loving, and when my parents come down, or whenever anybody comes round, he's jumping on their laps, he's licking their faces, and my dad absolutely loves him. Well, my mum does as well because with Tuppence, and I think when she was at the meat farm, there must have been a woman working at the meat farm, and they. I mean, I'm not going to go into what the unimaginable stuff they do at the meat farm, but there must have been a woman working at the meat farm because she just doesn't like women at all.
But it's good to rescue. I mean, I think that's, I
Absolutely,
mean,
yeah.
hearing all these stories, I mean, it is so important to give a dog a second chance. And I think, particularly at the
Totally agree.
minute, because
Mm,
so many people got dogs in the pandemic. And then, funnily enough,
mm.
and then when everything went back to normal, they thought, oh, we don't want a dog anymore. It's
Well,
too much hard work or too expensive. And that's an issue at the moment, I think, with the
I
cost
was
of living. Mm.
Yeah, I was thinking about, what we'll talk about on the podcast, and a lot of people do want a certain dog because they would like its personality or, the way that it looks or how cute it is. And it's a bit of a, I wouldn't say a status symbol because I don't think dogs are, unless you've got like a Doberman or, something, or people do use them as status symbols. But friends of mine bought a French bulldog, and I think they paid about £3,000 for this French bulldog. And the woman who bred the dogs, she was a decent woman, decent girl, but then she realised that she could make 25, 35, £30,000 from putting her dog into a pregnancy. And so very shortly after my friends got their French bulldog from one litter, she got it into when it came into season again. She bred it again, and all the pups died. So yeah, I think if you can rescue a dog, even if it means waiting for a few weeks or a few months for the right kind of breed to come in, then that's the best way. I remember Ira from All Dogs Matter. She said there was a woman who had bred French bulldogs, and she was, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but she was living in a flat. She owed her landlord thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds, and she bred the dogs purely for that reason. And they had to rehome them. So there, if you want a French bulldog, French bulldogs come up, Dachshunds come up, um, cockapoos come up, Labradors come up. We just recently, I don't know whether you saw, they sent a spaniel, working cocker spaniel, out to a lady in near where I live, and it wasn't right for the lady. I think that particular dog wanted to be out working and exercised, so it didn't work out. So I rehomed that spaniel to a guy who lives on a small holding. His son is a gamekeeper, and so I think get the right dog for your conditions and your environment.
Yeah, 100%. And also, really,
Mm.
I think as well, your experience. Some breeds are more difficult to train than others.
Yeah.
Terriers being a typical example. Understand as well, the commitment of say a cockapoo. They've got to be groomed every
Yeah.
6 weeks, or they'll turn
Yeah.
into a bush and
Yeah.
matted and all the rest of it. So that's more expense.
Yeah. Mm.
Think about the diet you're going to feed. What's going to keep you away
Yeah.
from the vet the most. Because that's the other
Yeah.
thing. Vets are super expensive at the moment. It's
Oh my
kind of
God, tell me about it.
gone
Mm-mm.
mad. It's
Yeah.
gone mad.
Joyce, she's on medication for her arthritis, and she's always had a urine problem. So she unless she gets a medication, then she'll pee in the house. So each time I go to the vet, it's like 350 quid just for medication.
It all adds up, you see. And so you can see why dogs are being abandoned left, right, and center. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the message, isn't it, of the podcast, adopt, don't shop. And I
Yes.
just wish, I'll tell you what, Paul, my biggest bugbear, I don't know, I'm going to ask you what your biggest bugbear is at the minute in the world
Yeah.
of dogs. But my biggest bugbear is these internet sites where people can just buy a dog with a click, and that people just think, right, don't want the dog anymore, but we want to get our money back on it, so we'll just put it up for sale,
Yeah.
and they go from pillar to post.
Mm.
And I think this is where something's got to be done. I mean, I might have to start a petition or something. I mean, what do you think of that, and what's your bugbear?
I've never seen, well, I'm sure that there are. I've never looked online to see that you could just click and collect a dog, basically. But yeah, I would probably say that that's my biggest bugbear as well. And again, people who don't realize what they're getting when they buy these particular kind of dogs, that they need a lot of exercise, they need certain environments, they need a firm hand as well. Because I think that dogs need to be trained correctly using the right methods. I'm not saying anything cruel or anything like that, but people who don't have any experience of handling dogs, and then their dogs are running wild, they'll get a dog and they're living in a town where there's no, that they can't walk them. A lot of people, this is another one of my bugbears as well, is if you're not going to breed a dog, I'm a firm believer of getting their testicles off, because I've seen programs on television where they've got dogs and they're running wild in the house. They've got so much energy, but when they're not castrated, they've got so much testosterone that it's driving them mad. I mean, I watched Clarkson's Farm the other day, and they were talking about cows. They castrate the cows if they're not going to be breeding them, because they produce so much testosterone, and bulls are harder to handle, and they'll attack you, and they're hard to handle. And it's the same thing with the dog. So what's your views on castration if you're not breeding a dog?
Well, my views are the opposite to yours, actually, only because
Right.
of recent science that
Mm.
proves that dogs that are spayed or neutered are definitely likely to get cancer. So if you spay or neuter, your dog is more likely to have cancer than those that are unspayed or
Right.
neutered. So there's lots of science. It's all to do with the LH hormone that
Mm.
accumulates in the body when they've been spayed or neutered, which
Okay.
doesn't do the whole body much good. And
Right.
it's all related to the pituitary gland, which doesn't
Mm.
know that the balls are being chopped off. So
Right.
it's still producing testosterone nevertheless, and it's all accumulating in this one hormone. So you're
Right.
actually getting a buildup of stuff that you shouldn't be having, but also to think that we're a whole. Do you know what I mean? Like our
Mm.
ankle is connected to our knee joint to our shoulder
Mm.
joint.
Right.
And so the reproductive organs, they do more than just reproduce. So
Right.
by taking that away, you're taking a big chunk of the dog out. So
Mm.
we've done podcasts on it with
Okay.
several leading vets, because I mean, Prudence, who's sat on my knee, my bull terrier, she's not spayed, but she's never
Right.
had puppies. She was never ever going to have puppies. It's not a given that
Mm.
because you don't neuter or spay, that they're definitely going to have babies. I mean, that's
Right.
far from it. So yeah, I'm afraid I've got a different angle on that.
Well,
But I
well,
but I
well,
agree.
agreed.
See, but yeah, we agree to differ. But I don't believe
Mm.
in people breeding dogs for money. I mean,
No.
and that's the problem. The problem isn't the spaying or the neutering; it's the
Mm.
humans.
Well, I have been told conflicting information, but you obviously you've done a lot more research on it. But like I said, I think that if yeah, boy dogs, especially that they've built, there's a lot of behavioural issues with dogs that don't. I mean, yes, with a girl dog, obviously, if she's in the season, you have to deal with that and the periods and the blood and stuff like that. But especially with boy dogs, I think if that it can make them more aggressive. It can make them more um, flighty. It can, yeah, and I think with some, especially with some breeds, it can make them aggressive towards other dogs as well, because all of the dogs that I've got, they live as one big happy family. But if you do go out on a dog walk and there's a couple of dogs that haven't been castrated, they can be quite on edge and they can attack sometimes. So anyway, but let's agree to disagree on that one.
We agree to disagree. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll don't worry. I'll send you some podcast episodes to listen to, because it is
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay.
It is really interesting. And
Okay. Cool.
yeah,
Hmm.
so but I don't believe in breeding for money, of course.
No,
I
of course
don't,
not. No.
and none of that. But I do believe in trying to help longevity. That's kind of my main
Yeah, I'd be
buzzword.
interested to. I'd be interested to. Well, I'll do some more research, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good, because I think the thing is, what's interesting is science is changing the whole time. I mean, there's so much more information available on
Mm.
things like, because the episodes we did was with Dr. Lise Hansen. She's a Danish vet. So if I say this to you, you might pass out. In Norway, right? In
Yeah.
Norway, quite a civilized Scandinavian country, it's illegal to spay and neuter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, vets aren't allowed to do it unless there
Ah,
is a massive health problem, like only one testicle's descended,
right.
um, but otherwise, no,
Mm,
because of the health problems
right.
associated with it. That I'll just say
Well,
that. And that's staggering. And then, because I'm half Swedish, so I love Scandinavia. And in
yeah,
Sweden, it's not illegal, but nobody does. But
right.
yet in Sweden, there aren't any puppy farms.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
and they are small population countries compared. Like my mum said to me once, Anna, do you realize that the whole of Sweden would fit into London? And I went,
right.
what? And
Mm,
that was a few years ago, but that's the kind of, and Sweden's like, I don't know, way bigger than England as a
yeah,
country. I mean, most of it's amazing land that no one lives in, but
yeah.
apart from the trolls and all the superstitions and things that live in those forests, of course. But yeah, so that's the kind of difference. I think you've got
Yeah,
different population living there. Really, that's the thing. Smaller
yeah,
population, probably less dogs per
yeah.
capita living in the
Different
Scandinavian
mentality.
countries. Yeah,
Well,
different
well,
mentality.
well, you've certainly educated me today, Anna. Thank
Oh
you
no,
very much
sorry,
for that.
Paul. I didn't. You're probably thinking, "What do you mean? She doesn't agree in spaying and neutering?" Oh,
Off
Anna,
with their
my
balls.
God! I thought you were on
No,
my side.
seriously. I'll do some more research into it. But that's always what I've been. That's always what I've experienced, and that's always what I've been told. But yes, thank you. I will. I'll
No,
look
no, no.
into
It's
that.
recent.
That'd
It's
be
all recent
interesting.
science. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it is all very new science, and that's where
Mm,
science, is interesting because it
yeah.
evolved. But look, Paul,
Mm.
you've got. I mean, you must be writing a book, right, about all these
Yes.
fun stories on the farm. I
Yes.
mean, is this? I mean, I want to read it, so you must write this book.
I've been wanting to write a book for a long time. My life's been up and down, trials and tribulations. I've packed a hell of a lot in, and it's been quite interesting. Well, I think it is. So yes, I've got a format where I can kind of put it in. I'm not very good at sitting in front of a computer, so I'm kind of struggling with that a little bit. But yes, I'm writing a book, and I'm very excited about it. It's my memoirs, so it should be out later this year, I think. Yeah, but I
Fantastic.
can't wait. Yes, it should be interesting.
Oh no, 100%, because life is
Mm.
a journey, I think,
It is,
defined by chapters that are defined by your
and
dogs
there's
and
lots
other
of
animals.
things. Yeah, there's lots of things I want cleared up in the book as well because I don't know whether you knew I went through some spot of bother 2.5 years ago and ended up in prison, and it was all lies, and it was in the papers. And I just had to lie down and take it on the chin and just keep my mouth shut because, well, I did. So I want my story to be out there so people can actually realize that this is actually what happened and what I'd actually gone through. So yeah, that's part of the book as well. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea. Gosh,
Oh, didn't you?
Paul.
Right.
No, I
Mm.
didn't actually. I'm because well, I don't really only read dog news, when I'm because
Yeah.
I don't buy newspapers anymore like everyone. So when I'm looking for news or something interesting,
Mm.
I'll just
Yeah.
put dogs in the news.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well,
that
you don't strike me as a doggy woman, Anna.
what do you mean?
That's all you talk about.
I
You
know that's
love
all I
them.
can talk about. No, I can talk about other things. I love art. I love theatre. No,
No, I love
I'm
you for
not.
that. I love you for that. I love
I
you the
know.
fact
I
that you're
know. Oh,
dedicated to the dog and its cause and its health and all the rest of it. So I
yeah,
love you for
yeah.
that.
And I only like people who love dogs. I mean, my
Exactly.
auntie years ago said never trust anyone who doesn't like dogs, right?
No,
And I've taken
that's
that on
fair.
board, honestly, through my
Mm,
life. And yeah, when
yeah.
I find out that, people aren't interested in dogs, I'm like, right, okay. So we
Sod
watch this
off.
one. Yeah,
Mm.
sod off. It's like, I'm not interested. You're not a good person. So I think, you can judge, well, it's like Gandhi said, isn't it? You can judge a nation by how they treat their animals, but I think you
Yeah,
can judge individuals in the same way, quite frankly.
definitely. Yeah,
Mm, mm, mm.
100%. Yeah.
Mm, Well, Paul, I can't wait to hopefully get one of the first copies of
Well,
your book.
and also come down and visit me at the farm.
I really want to. The
Yeah.
pygmy goats and
No,
the dogs and everything.
the
I'd love
sheep.
it, and I'd muck in. You know what I mean? I'm quite practical, and I
Oh, I'd
am.
get your hands dirty. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, good-o. And yeah, no, look, thank you for coming on today. It's been absolutely
It's been,
brilliant.
yeah,
You're
I've
so
loved it.
cheerful and upbeat, and it's such
Bless
a
you.
gift.
Thank you so much.
That's our show, Mr. Binks. What did you think? Oh, yes, I think Paul needs you down at the farm to get that rat. And you're right, it is time for Woof of the Week. It is true to say that you can feel quite lonely in a room full of people, but you never feel alone with a dog by your side. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, go on, please rate and review the show. It's really easy and you can do it wherever you tune into your podcasts. Thanks again, of course, to Paul Drayton for joining us today, and all the links will be in the show notes. Thanks, of course, to Mike Hansen, my producer, for all of the music and production as ever. Find out more about him at Pod People UK. And if you want to find out a bit more about myself and Mr. Binks and Prudence and Baggy, go to @AnnaWebDogs or check out my website where there's lots of different packages if you fancy some nutrition or some help with any behaviour. What's that, Mr. Binks? Yes, you're right. We will be back in your feed next Sunday. So if you haven't already, go on, subscribe. It's free and it means you'll just never miss another show. Bye for now.